It wasn't a gut feeling. It was a freezing, irrefutable certainty. My fiancé, Vincent Hayes, had invited me to a critical dinner with a potential Japanese investor. I offered him a calm smile, a polite nod, and performed the role of the beautiful, quietly supportive partner flawlessly. What he had no way of knowing was that I understood every single syllable of Japanese. And when I finally heard what he told that client about me, my events, everything I thought I knew about our life shattered. But to understand the true nature of the destruction that followed, I need to start at the beginning. My name is Maya, and for 12 years, I believed I was building a solid life with Vincent. It wasn't a storybook romance, but it felt stable. We had shared goals, a comfortable home in Palo Alto, and from the outside, we looked like the quintessential successful Bay Area couple. Vincent worked as a senior director at a leading fintech firm. I managed marketing and PR for a successful, independent software company. It wasn't the C-suite, but I enjoyed my work and the autonomy it provided. Yet, somewhere along the line, the foundation of our life had begun to fracture. I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment of erosion. Perhaps it began 3 years ago when Vincent received his massive promotion, turning him from an executive into someone who considered himself genuinely important. The shift was gradual, so subtle that I failed to notice I was now living in a fundamentally different relationship than the one I had originally committed to. Vincent became perpetually busy. He was always on his phone, always traveling for urgent conferences, and when he was home, he was either locked in his soundproof home office or too exhausted to engage in anything beyond a few strained pleasantries. Our entire relationship became transactional, built on a checklist. Did you get my custom-tailored shirts from the cleaners? Don't forget the catering quote for the charity gala. Can you schedule the pool maintenance? I don't have time to manage the household. I spent countless quiet evenings sitting alone in the living room, staring at a television screen I wasn't watching, rationalizing my loneliness as the reality of modern marriage. I pushed on the feeling of being perpetually relegated to the background, accepting the narrative that this quiet detachment was simply the routine that sets in after a decade together. Then, roughly 18 months ago, a crucial, life-altering detour presented itself. One night, unable to sleep, I was scrolling aimlessly on my tablet when an advertisement appeared for a free language learning trial, Japanese. I had taken a single semester in college, a time when I was a different person with entirely different, much larger dreams. I remembered loving the language's complexity, its inherent elegance, and the way it forced you to think about communication with a profound respect for context. But then came Vincent, marriage, and career, and that academic interest was filed away under impractical youthful hobbies. That night, lying next to Vincent's heavy, oblivious snoring, I downloaded the app. Just to see if any of the characters remained. To my own surprise, I remembered more than I expected. The basic hiragana script returned with ease, followed quickly by the phonetic katakana. Within weeks, I was completely, secretly hooked. Every evening, while Vincent worked late or watched his endless loop of financial news shows, I sat at the dining room table with earbuds fixed firmly in place, working through advanced lessons. I subscribed to Japanese news podcasts, watched long-form dramas, eventually graduating to reading sophisticated, untranslated online novels. I didn't tell Vincent, not out of malice, but because I had been conditioned not to share anything he would inevitably dismiss. Just 5 years prior, I had mentioned an interest in pursuing a ceramics course. He chuckled gently. Maya, you manage a team of 20. You don't need to worry about making pots. Besides, when would you possibly find the time? After that, I learned to protect my personal interests by keeping them profoundly quiet. The Japanese language became my private, sovereign world. And I was exceptional at it. I practiced for hours daily, video chatting with professional tutors in Tokyo, joining online immersion groups, and consistently challenging myself with complex materials. By the time a year and a half had passed, I understood professional, high-level conversational Japanese fluently. Not flawlessly, but well enough to follow complex plots, understand economic podcasts, and hold deep conversations with native speakers. Every new grammar pattern I mastered felt like a tangible victory, a piece of evidence that I was still capable of independent growth, still someone far beyond the simple definition of Vincent's fiancée. Then came the turning point. One evening in late September, Vincent arrived home earlier than usual, radiating a rare, palpable excitement. "Maya, fantastic news," he announced, walking into the kitchen where I was chopping vegetables. "We are finalizing a massive partnership with a key Japanese tech giant. This is huge for my VP bid. The CEO, Mr. Akiyama, is visiting next week, and I'm taking him to dinner at Zen Gardens. You must be there." I looked up, confused. "A business dinner?" "Yes." Akiyama-san specifically asked if I was married. "It's part of the culture, they need to see a stable, family-oriented base. It's good optics for the partnership," he explained, grabbing an expensive imported beer from the fridge. "You just need to look elegant, smile, and be charming." The usual. The casual dismissal inherent in the word usual was a familiar barb, but I pushed it aside. "Of course. When is it?" "Next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Wear that emerald green dress. Conservative but eye-catching. And, Maya," he turned to look at me, truly looking at me for the first time in weeks. "Akiyama barely speaks English. I'll be conducting most of the communication in Japanese. You'll be bored out of your mind, but just keep that lovely smile fixed in place." My heart hammered a sudden, uneven rhythm against my ribs. "You speak Japanese?" Picked it up quickly. "Working with the Osaka division over the years," he replied, swelling with pride. "I'm virtually fluent now. It's a major reason they're considering me for the vice presidency. Not many Western executives can negotiate at this level in Japanese." He didn't ask if I spoke it. He didn't even pause to wonder if I might possess any concurrent interest or knowledge. Why would he? In his rigid view of our shared world, I was merely the wife, the pretty accessory who would dutifully smile while the important people discussed the future. I turned back to the cutting board, forcing my hands to maintain a steady rhythm. "That sounds absolutely wonderful, honey," I said, my voice smooth and utterly devoid of emotion. "I will be there." After he left the kitchen, I leaned on the counter, my mind racing with cold, laser-like focus. An unforeseen opportunity had just fallen into my lap. A definitive chance to understand a professional conversation Vincent assumed was entirely private. A chance to hear how he truly spoke, how he positioned himself, and, most critically, how he talked about our life and me when he believed his words were shielded by an unknown language. A small, desperate part of me felt immense guilt for anticipating this breach of trust. But a larger, colder part, the part that had felt increasingly invisible in my own marriage, needed this validation. I needed to know the truth. The next week crawled by. I spent every available minute refreshing my professional Japanese lexicon, practicing polite business Kigo speech patterns, ensuring I would be able to follow an uninterrupted, high-stakes conversation. I told myself I was overreacting, that I was being paranoid, searching for drama that wasn't there. Wednesday arrived. I wore the emerald dress as requested, paired with modest jewelry and severe heels. In the mirror, I saw the exact image Vincent required, a presentable, elegant partner who wouldn't be an embarrassment. The restaurant, Zen Gardens, was in San Francisco, a sleek, painfully expensive space with reservations booked months in advance. "Remember," Vincent instructed as we walked in, adjusting the lapel of his suit. "Be pleasant. Don't try to engage in the business discussion. If Akiyama-san addresses you in English, keep your answers extremely brief. We need him focused on the partnership." I nodded, feeling the bitter taste of my manufactured obedience. Mr. Akiyama was already seated. He stood to greet us, a polished man in his mid-50s with a warm, genuine smile. Vincent and Akiyama exchanged formal, practiced bows and greetings in Japanese. I offered my silent smile, looking appropriately lost, and slid into the chair Vincent pulled out. The first few minutes were surface level in English. Akiyama complimented the city, asked about my work, and mentioned his intense travel schedule. His English was actually quite good, far better than Vincent had led me to believe. Then, as the delicate courses began to arrive, they naturally transitioned entirely into Japanese. Vincent's fluency was indeed impressive. He spoke smoothly and confidently, clearly comfortable navigating the complex language. They discussed market projections, technical specifications, and global expansion strategies. I sat quietly, sipping water, occasionally offering a passive smile when they glanced my way, effortlessly playing my designated role. Then, Akiyama-san turned slightly toward me and asked a simple, polite question in Japanese about my work. Vincent answered for me instantly, before I could even pretend not to understand the query. In Japanese, Vincent said, with casual, easy dismissal, "Oh, Maya works in marketing, but it's just a smaller company. Nothing serious, really. More of a hobby to keep her busy while I focus on my career. She mostly takes care of our home and social schedule." My face remained neutral, but inside, a vital piece of my carefully constructed world twisted and snapped. A hobby? I had managed successful, award-winning campaigns for 15 years, but he had just wiped out my entire career as a form of light leisure. Akiyama-san nodded politely and mercifully redirected the conversation. The dinner continued. I ate slowly, remained silent, and listened with every fiber of my being. Vincent was fundamentally different in Japanese, more aggressive, more boastful, and strangely vulnerable. He exaggerated his role on internal projects, took credit for complex team-driven efforts, and painted himself as the singular central pillar of the company's success. The Vincent speaking Japanese was an inflated, arrogant version of the man I knew. Then the conversation shifted toward the sensitive subject of work-life balance and the necessity of family support. Vincent laughed, an ugly, grating sound that made my stomach seize. To be honest, Vincent said in Japanese, his tone heavy with casual disdain, my wife doesn't really understand the high-level business world. She's perfectly content with her simple, quiet life. I handle all the important decisions, the strategy, the finances. She is simply here for appearances. Keeps the house running, looks presentable at events like this. It works perfectly for me because I don't have to worry about a wife who demands too much attention or has her own inconvenient ambitions getting in the way. I gripped my water glass so hard that the stem creaked. I sat perfectly still, my entire body rigid, my face fixed in that bland, decorative smile. But Vincent wasn't finished betraying me. Akiyama-san politely inquired about Vincent's long-term corporate goals. The VP position is essentially mine, Vincent boasted in Japanese. After that, I'm positioning myself for the C-suite within 5 years. I've been maneuvering carefully, building the right relationships. My wife doesn't know this yet, but I've been slowly moving assets around, setting up several offshore accounts. Just smart, flexible financial planning. If my career requires sudden relocation or major changes, I need the agility to move quickly without being tied down by joint accounts or her having to formally sign off on every financial decision. My blood ran cold. Offshore accounts. Moving marital assets without my knowledge. I was sitting there, smiling blandly, while my husband casually confessed to financial fraud, maneuvers that clearly signaled he was preparing for a future where I would have no access to the marital estate. Then came the final, fatal knife twist. Akiyama-san asked about the high stress of Vincent's position and how he managed it. Vincent's laugh was brittle and dismissive. I have my necessary outlets. There's someone at work, Jessica. She's in the finance department. We've been seeing each other for about 6 months now. My wife has absolutely no idea. Honestly, it's been beneficial for me. Jessica understands my world, my ambition. We discuss strategy, make long-term career plans. It's profoundly refreshing after coming home to someone who can't discuss anything more complex than what to cook for dinner. I sat perfectly still, my face frozen in a painful rictus of pleasant neutrality. Inside, the last fragments of my marriage were shattering into dust. An affair. Financial fraud. Reducing my existence to a simple problem, the Maya situation, to be handled. 12 years of loyalty reduced to a decorative object who kept house and provided good optics. Akiyama-san was visibly uncomfortable now. His subsequent responses became clipped, his tone formal. He was too polite to challenge Vincent, but the warmth was gone. The dinner eventually ended. In the restaurant lobby, Akiyama-san bowed deeply to me and said in careful English, "It was a true pleasure meeting you, Mrs. Vance. I wish you well." There was a profound softness in his eyes that made me realize he had understood the dynamic perfectly. He had seen the manipulation and the betrayal, even if he couldn't publicly address it. The drive home to Palo Alto was silent. Vincent was pleased with himself, humming along to the radio. "That went perfectly," he announced. Akiyama was seriously impressed. "That's wonderful, honey," I replied, my voice sounding hollow and alien. At home, Vincent offered a cursory kiss on my cheek, mumbled something about catching up on work emails, and disappeared into his office sanctuary. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door softly, and stood in the chilling silence. I pulled out my phone and did the only thing that made sense. I called Lena. Lena had been my college roommate and best friend, a friendship that Vincent's subtle control over my social life had allowed to wither. She was now a highly sought-after family law attorney in San Jose. "Maya," she answered, surprised by the late hour. "Lena," I choked out, unable to hold the dam any longer. "I need a lawyer. I need you." We spoke for 2 solid hours. I told her everything, the dinner, the Japanese conversation, the offshore accounts, the affair, the decade of emotional diminishment. She listened in cold silence, her legal mind processing every detail. "First," she finally said, her voice sharp and steady. "I need you to breathe. Can you do that, Maya?" I managed a breath. "Second, what he is doing with those offshore accounts is likely financial fraud, bordering on criminal depending on the jurisdiction. If he is hiding marital assets in anticipation of a divorce, we can use that to obliterate him. You are entitled to half of everything he has moved." "I don't have physical proof," I whispered. "It was just a verbal conversation." "That's okay. Here is the strategy, you are not to confront him. Not a word. Starting tomorrow, you will gather documentation. Bank statements, tax returns, any financial records you can access. Take photographic evidence, forward yourself emails, secure anything with a paper trail. We will find it. You are not alone anymore." I hung up. Fear, betrayal, and white-hot rage warred within me, but beneath it all, a cold, clear determination solidified. I was done being the small, decorative wife. I was going to reclaim my life, even if the process required burning down the entire structure of the one he had built on my silence. The next morning, I called in sick to my office. Vincent barely grunted an acknowledgement as he left for work. The moment his car pulled out, I went to his locked home office, using the code I had always known but never used. Vincent kept meticulous files. I found bank statements going back 3 years, tax returns, and investment details. I photographed everything with my phone, uploading it all to a secure, private cloud drive Lena had set up. The evidence was damning. 2 secret accounts I had never seen, both showing consistent, large transfers, over $50,000 had been funneled to a bank in the Cayman Islands over the last 8 months. Our joint savings were slowly being bled dry. I kept photographing, kept documenting. I found filed emails, evidence of investment properties I didn't know we owned, registered exclusively in his name. And then I found the printed emails to Jessica in finance. He had been so careless. The exchanges were romantic and explicit, confirming dates and plans for a future that read, "Once I've handled the Maya situation, we can stop hiding." The Maya situation. That's all I was. A hurdle to be cleared. I spent 6 weeks gathering evidence, living under the same roof with the man who saw me as a temporary problem. Every smile was a lie, every pleasantry was a calculated move. But I played the role of the devoted fiancé perfectly. Lena built the case file. We chose a Friday. Lena filed the divorce petition on Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, I drove to Lena's office instead of my own. Vincent's HR department would receive our entire evidence package detailing his financial and ethical misconduct at 9 a.m. The divorce papers would be served to him at his office at 9:30 a.m. I sat in Lena's conference room, watching the clock tick. At 11 a.m., Lena received confirmation, papers served. Evidence package received. Vincent's employer had immediately placed him on administrative leave, pending a full internal investigation. How do you feel? Lena asked. Terrified, I admitted. But completely, fundamentally right. I spent the first night away at Lena's guest room. Vincent tried calling 47 times. Lena documented every furious, confused, and pleading voicemail. On Saturday morning, I returned to the townhouse, escorted by Lena and a police officer for safety. Vincent was home, unshaven, his eyes red and rumpled. Maya, please, he started when he saw the officer. I held up my hand, stopping him instantly. Don't. Explain what? That you were cheating? That you were actively hiding money? That you openly called me too simple to understand your world? I stepped closer, my voice low and cold. I heard every word at that dinner, Vincent. Every single word. His face went instantly white, the color draining away. You don't speak Japanese. I've been fluent for over a year and a half. Funny how you never once asked. Never once wondered what I did with my time when you were too busy with your VP ambitions or Jessica. He sank onto the couch, defeated. The company put me on leave. They're investigating. I could lose everything. That is no longer my problem. I started toward the stairs. Wait! We can fix this. Couples therapy. I'll end it with Jessica. We can work through this. His voice was desperate, hollow. I turned back, looking at the man I had loved. You don't want to fix this marriage, Vincent. You want to fix your career, your image, and your financial situation. You're not sorry you hurt me, you're just sorry you got caught. That's not true, he weakly protested. At that dinner, you told Akiyama-san that I was merely for appearance, too unambitious, a live-in housekeeper who provided optics. Do you even remember saying that? His silence was the final, total confirmation I needed. I am done being small for you, Vincent. You are not going to win. And you are certainly not getting away with hiding my assets. The divorce took 8 months. Vincent's company investigation found definitive ethical violations, and he was terminated. He eventually found a lesser role at a competitor, but his career trajectory was permanently altered. The offshore accounts were located and divided. I walked away with half of everything he tried to hide, plus a substantial settlement. The true retribution, however, came 2 months into the divorce. Mr. Akiyama, the Japanese CEO, reached out to me via a carefully worded professional message on LinkedIn. He had heard about the divorce and the situation. He wondered if I might be interested in a senior position with his company. They were opening a crucial U.S. office and needed someone who understood both American marketing and high-level Japanese business culture. I met with him and his team. This time, I spoke Japanese from the very first moment. Akiyama-san's eyes lit up with genuine respect, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. I saw the understanding in your eyes just for a moment at that dinner, Mrs. Vance, he said in perfect Japanese at the end of the interview. I am glad you found your strength. I accepted the position as Senior Marketing Director, a salary triple what I had been making. I ran that department for 15 successful years, traveling globally, making true friends, and becoming someone who existed entirely beyond the definition of somebody's wife. I still study Japanese every day, but now it is purely for pleasure. The secret language that started as a quiet escape became the powerful weapon that saved me. It showed me I was capable of so much more than I had allowed myself to believe. That dinner at Zen Gardens was both the worst and the best night of my life. Worst because it shattered my reality. Best because it forced me to act, to find my worth, and to demand that the world respect it.